Welcome back to No Nostalgia Filter. I'm Angelo.
And I'm Raven.
And we're going to do something different. We are going to No Nostalgia Filter E3. I've been to E3 6 or 7 times. It's hard to remember. I went to the one that was the final E for All, and I've been going since. And Raven's never been.
Never actually watched either.
So, we've been watching the press conferences together. I took a year off, so I'm at home. And we're watching the press conferences, and we're going to run them down for you.
Basically in podcast format, which is a little different from our YouTube, but, you know.
So, EA. EA has always kind of been a disappointment for me. They usually start with a big game, then they do a bunch of sports shit, then they talk about a couple games, but they don't show us much about the games. They show us, like, concepts and people working on the games, and they end with a big game. And for me, that was exactly the same as what happened. I was going to say, I'm
over here nodding. You can't see me off camera, but I'm nodding because that's exactly how the EA press conference went this year.
It was mostly a waste of time. There were a couple good announcements. They started with Titanfall 2. I was a big fan of Titanfall 1. It looked pretty cool. Everyone was making a huge deal about, it's single player now, and the story looked kind of interesting, you know, like, futuristic, world, and, the Titans had, like, AI now, and I'm gonna turn off my phone and not be an asshole.
That's probably a wise idea. TF2 is getting, or Titanfall 2 is getting single player. It's still multiplayer as well, it seems. But, like, I have never played any of the Titanfalls. I've heard TF2 mentioned several times around the No Nostalgia Filter crew, but I know very little about it.
To me, the problem is it looked like the same old Call of Duty, you know?
That's kind of the vibe I got from it. And there are a million Call of Duties, and they're all very similar in nature.
And now it's going to have to compete with Overwatch, which has like 7 million players, and I think at one point it had 9.7 million players. And
EA also mentioned another first-person shooter, Battlefield.
Oh yeah, they did Battlefield 1, which, okay, so there's...
So they're competing with themselves.
Okay, well, okay, they do a lot of shooters, and they had even more shooters later, but I guess here's the thing. Titanfall looked wholly inoffensive. Titanfall 2 looked wholly inoffensive. I didn't really have a problem with it, but I think we're kind of done with the military shooter era. I mean, not done, but...
Dun.
Call of Duty's still coming out, and like you said, they have Battlefield 1 coming out, and... all I could think of is, man, I want to play more Overwatch.
Yeah, Overwatch. I've done the tutorial from it, and I love the tutorial. I can't wait to actually try the game itself, but I haven't had a chance to. But anyway.
So Battlefield 1. Battlefield 1 is set in World War I, which is different from a lot of shooters. That means low technology. Lots of trench warfare, shovels, pikes, airships like blimps, bullet trains, all this weird semi-steampunky stuff going on.
For this reason, it kind of makes me want to at least try it, only because that's not the most common thing in first-person shooters.
It's something that hasn't been done before. I
Exactly.
do give them that. Same deal, massive gameplay, 64-player battles.
I missed that tidbit.
But, and Zeppelins can crash on fire, which is pretty cool. I don't know. Once again, it seems cool, and I definitely want to play the single player, if only because I'd want to play a game set in World War I, but yeah. I don't know, it feels like we're getting flooded with shooters again.
I kind of thought we had moved beyond that, at least a little bit, but here we are, more shooters.
And get used to this, because we're going to be saying that EA floods us with shooters a lot. Speaking of, Mass Effect Andromeda. I know it's an RPG, but it's an RPG shooter.
Yay, more shooters!
I was a fan of the first 3 Mass Effects.
Mm-hmm.
I was a little disappointed in Mass Effect 3, but overall I thought that they were okay. My biggest problem was that they didn't show a whole lot. Like, last year at E3, all that they showed was the title. It was Mass Effect Andromeda. This year at
Quizzical
E3...
look face here.
This year at E3, all that they did was show the making of the game. They didn't show us gameplay. They were like, ooh, you're going to be in a whole new area. You're the alien here. You're the invader. And that makes me think... I mean, they could do cool things with it. Like, it could be like Star Trek, and that could be cool.
Yeah, that could be really cool.
But I don't know. They just their video documentary mostly showed people making it.
Like a kind of making of video.
Yeah, and it just...
It would be better and better marketing.
You know what
if
it was?
They actually showed us games.
Yeah, but that's the problem. They're not going to do that. What they did was they just cut together the trailer really quick so that it whet our appetite, but it's pretty obvious that there's not anything concrete here. It's really being sold off of the Mass Effect name. I don't think it's going to be bad, but it's nothing to be excited about. They did Star Wars. Stairwares. So
they have 3 Star Wars games coming out?
They have more than 3 Star Wars games. So the tone of Star Wars in the press conference was, look at all the Star Wars. We are doing all this Star Wars. Don't you guys love Star Wars? Star Wars, Star Wars, Star Wars. And normally I would be like, cool. But Star Wars Battlefront 2 is coming out next year. And Star Wars Battlefront 1 hasn't been out for a year yet.
It seems like they're rushing just a little bit.
Well, I don't want Star Wars Battlefront to be a yearly release. And yeah, they were like, it's gonna have stuff from Episode 7 in it. And if they're not putting Finn and Poe's, awesome game and love
they seriously need
in the game, I don't care. But I was lukewarm on purchasing Star Wars Battlefront to begin with. Now it's just buyer's remorse. Like, why would anyone invest in a new Star Wars Battlefront when they know they're getting a new game in a year or so?
Yeah, it's like when you go to buy a console and the next thing you know, the next console's already announced. It's like, why?
Which I'm sure we'll have things to say about later on in E3.
Yeah. I wanted to be hype over the Star Wars games. I really did. I'm a huge Star Wars fan as it is. But, I played one of the Star Wars games. I think it was The Empire Strikes Back when I was a kid. And I just wasn't impressed with it. And I haven't been able to get excited about any other Star Wars game since. And now that they've released one already, it hasn't even been out a year, and now they're already talking about releasing another one, and already talking about one that's coming out in 2018. The fuck, EA? I'm gonna get our doorbell.
We'll be right back. So then they did FIFA 17, FIFA some number. I don't care. I just don't care. I know that there's a bunch of international fans that hate me now. People over in Germany and Spain and Brazilchical and all these different places that really like soccer. Sorry, football. I don't care. Their whole big deal this time was, we have actual named managers in the game now. We've digitized the likeness of team managers. Does anyone care about that?
I don't.
Does even for the sparts that I actually do care about, I don't give a shit if the team manager is on the side of the court field tarmac. That's that doesn't make a difference. And they had a new story mode featuring this named character that I don't remember the name. Maybe he's somebody that actually makes a difference, but you're like it's a career.
Fucking Alex
Hunter. Alex Hunter. It's a career mode where you take a character from no name to stardom, except it's not you. You don't get to make your character. You have to play as Alex Hunter.
And who is he?
No, he's no one. He's literally someone that they just made up.
That's kind of my point. Who is he?
Every other sports game allows you to make up your own stupid dude. Now we have to play as this stupid dude? Like, that seems so dumb. And granted, the story mode seemed kind of cool. Like, they were like, there's times when if you're on a losing streak, your character's gonna get depressed. Like, they modeled depression into the way your character plays, which is cool. All I really want to do is kick a ball around. Like,
that's kind of what a sports game should be. But if you want internet,
is someone, and I'm saying this as someone who suffers from depression, are people really going to be sitting down and going, ooh, he doesn't want to leave his room today. That's what I want from my soccer game. I don't know. I just don't get it.
I personally, I'm a fan of football, American football, I will specify. I couldn't give a shit about FIFA.
And speaking of, Madden 73. So it was really just the same bullshit. I'm sorry. They came on stage and they were like, guess what you get to do? We have new improved passing and new ways to handle the ball and blah, 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 blah. And I swear that they say the same bullshit every fucking year.
I was just thinking that same thing.
Like,
every single time there's a new Madden, they're like, oh, we've improved passing.
It's the same. It's just the same.
Can you track it to a specific pixel now?
And I mean, we all know what we're getting from Madden 17 and FIFA 17. It's the same game with maybe 2 extra button presses for doing stuff on the field, and updated stats. That's all we're getting. You're paying for updated stats. So,
but you're getting less character creation in FIFA.
One thing that they did mention, though, was that they are going to be sponsoring their own esports competitions. So they're going to be holding weekly tournaments and stuff.
That's kind of cool.
And I think and they're looking for new e-athletes, and I think that that's kind of interesting. Yeah. Especially because they're trying to let, new up-and-comers sort of play online and become noticed, but then they're and here are the 8 greatest players in Madden competing for one of the biggest prizes, blah, blah, blah. And the only thing I could think of is, wow, is Madden esports really a thing?
Apparently it is, but you know what? I'm kind of glad that they're doing it.
I mean, does it compare to League of Legends or Street Fighter 5 or
probably not, but
anything?
Probably not, honestly. But one good thing about this is, I guess, that they're giving some kind of recognition to the fact that people who play esports are still athletes.
Yeah, so there's that.
Yeah. So I'll give them props for that.
They also did this thing where they said that they would be putting together weekly challenges for people who use Origin. So it's say that you were in Star Wars Battlefront and it's assassinate Princess Leia or something 10 times. And then when you do that, they'll donate money to charity for everybody who gets the achievement, which is okay, but not that I'm saying it's not a good idea to donate to charity.
No,
I donate during
idea.
AGDQ and SGDQ every year.
Fuck yeah.
But that doesn't exactly motivate me. If I wasn't an achievement hunter before, I'm not going to be an achievement hunter just because it's linked to charity now.
I can see how some people would be, though.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's not a thing that would make me an achievement hunter, but I can see how that would motivate some people, especially if it's a charity close to their hearts.
Yeah. There was one final thing that we saved for last because it was the only cool thing
in
the entire press conference.
Super hype about.
So last year they had this really nervous indie developer up on stage. He looked like he was gonna cry. His hands were shaking. and he introduced us to Unraveled, which was this 2D platformer about a little yarn thing that was about our interpersonal connections and the people we love and the people we leave behind, and how every tiny thing we do creates this huge ripple effect in everyone else's lives. And everyone loved it. Like, it was the breakout indie hit of the conferences that year. People like were moved to tears. People loved that they brought like this scared indie developer up on stage, and Unraveled actually ended up being a pretty good game.
Cool.
So this year they brought another different jittering, almost crying indie developer up on stage.
Again with a nodding.
Which makes me think that this is gonna be
a thing?
a thing from now on. And I will admit, I definitely didn't have as much feels for this like crazy shaking, like nearly crying guy, because I saw it all before. But the game that they were pimping was pretty cool. It was called Fee, just F-E.
Yeah, or Fae.
Or Fae, or Fi.
Faux-fam. There's undecision I get about how it's pronounced.
But it's really interesting. It looks like a cross between like an old 3D platformer like Spyro the Dragon and Ori and the Blind Forest.
Yeah, actually, they actually kind of described it very similarly. Actually, it's a fantastic looking game.
It has this really interesting, like, the idea behind the game is sound. You're this like tiny fox-like cub creature, and you communicate with other creatures of the wild. Some are like really big. It has like a very like Miyazaki feel to it.
Yeah, it does.
But you communicate them with sound, and so you shoot sound waves at them, and they understand you, and they shoot sound waves back at you, and that's how you interact with the environment. But the silent ones are the enemies, and they walk through the environment, and they mute everything that they come across. And it's kind of scary, because in the game, the sound actually drops out, and so you can tell that enemies are coming when you hear nothing. And that's kind of interesting and ambient.
And I love
the graphic style is really cool. It's like a shaded, cartoony, white on pale blue. But everything turns like really bright red and like danger sign whenever like the silent ones are nearby.
Yeah. I was actually talking while watching this press conference, and when I saw the graphics of this, I immediately shut up and my eye was drawn to the TV because I'm like, holy motherfucking. Like, I've gotta watch this.
So, I admit, that looked cool. That looked artistic, and they talked about how they wanted it to be art. They talked about how they wanted it to elicit an emotion. They talked about how they wanted it to mean something to the audience. And I have decently high hopes.
I actually have really high hopes. It looks like a fantastic game. I really like the narrative. It's supposed to be about how everything's connection in nature, like how one thing affects the other and so forth. And that's something that is right up my alley. The color scheme is gorgeous. I love the character design. Like the physical aesthetic is very pleasing to me. I am really hyped for this game. I wish that they had announced what platform it's going to be for, but they actually did not. And
consoles.
Hopefully PC, though.
Yeah,
like,
Origin, I guess. So, rundown.
Shooter, Star Wars.
Yeah, shooter, sports, fairies. That's basically what it was. I don't think Mass Effect's going to be bad. I don't think Battlefield 1's going to be bad. I don't think that Titanfall 2 is going to be bad. I just don't care.
I think a lot of them are going to be mediocre.
There was no killer app in this press conference, and other than Fee, I don't know. I guess for the year that EA said we are not going to be part of the conference proper, and we're going to have our own event, and we're going to show that we are more important than E3, It's a whole bunch of nothing.
Oh God! For
I
them to have
mean,
made that statement, this was like
there wasn't
impressive.
like a whole bunch. They didn't show anything. Like they didn't show Plants vs Zombies, you know, which is an EA thing. They didn't show Need for Speed. They didn't show any of the cool EA properties that I really thought that they were going to do. And if this is what the state of EA, one of the biggest publishers in the industry, is, I don't know. I guess I just don't have a whole lot of hope for like new innovative stuff coming out this year.
At least not from them.
So, but we'll see what happens. Up next is Bethesda. And Bethesda is new at the press conference game. They only had their first press conference last year, so I have no idea what they're going to give us because we already have Doom and Fallout 4, and was Bethesda even releasing anything this year? I guess we'll see. So catch us then. We'll see you next time.
See you later.
No nostalgia filter.